Hi there, in this lesson let's talk about components in Studio. If you are already familiar with symbols in Sketch, you'll find this very similar. So components are basically UI elements that can contain many groups and layers, and those elements are reusable across our project. It means that you can create a button component and use it on different artboards, and then if you update the component itself, all of the component instances, so all of those copies across different artboards, will update accordingly. So let me quickly show you what I mean. You can turn any layer or group into a component in Studio. So let's select this avatar batch group, and now all you need to do is click on this little icon, this create component icon, or press Command K on the keyboard. So now we have a new component and we can rename it, but this name is really okay. So let's click done, and we land inside of the definition of this component. So this is like a separate artboard, and inside this we have one state. For now we can't really create more states in Studio, but this will change in future, and all the things that we've created are here. So this is the source of truth for our component, and we can edit those values, and if we have multiple instances of this component, they will change accordingly. If you want to go back, you either press this little arrow or you can use this arrow, and here we are in our project again. And if you take a look at the layers panel, now next to the avatar batch we have a component icon, and we can also expand this, but there's a different color for all those items. It means that if you make any changes to those colored groups or layers here, this will be treated as something that's called an override, and this won't modify the source of truth, the definition of the component, but only how this particular instance appears on the artboard. To show you what I mean by this, let me switch to the library view. So you can click on this icon or press Command L on the keyboard. And here is our avatar batch component. We can take this component and put another instance of this component on the very same artboard. If I go back to the layers panel, you'll see that we have another instance here. And if I make any adjustments to this instance, for example, if I change the color, or if I select, for example, this mask and slightly change the size of this mask, you'll see that this is applied only to this instance. And please remember this rule. If you make any adjustments here, they are more important than the definition of component itself. So if you later on change the color of this background in the definition of the symbol, here it will still stay orange. And this is simply because anything you make here directly on the artboard is more important than the definition. You can always go back to the default styles of this component by right-clicking on this item and selecting Reset Overrides command. And then, as you see, everything is back to normal. Now, if I go to the definition in the library, to the definition of the symbol, and if I change the fill color of this background, and for example, let's make it red, if I go back, you'll see that both instances update. But if I have any updates here on the to the background, it won't change even if I change the source of truth. But still, you have the option to detach this entirely from this component. So if you have multiple instances and you can have them on multiple artboards, you can still detach one of the copies by just selecting it and either right-clicking here directly on the artboard or in the layers panel, and you can detach it from the component. And now if you make any changes to the source of truth in the library to this avatar, this won't affect this particular instance. Let's change the background once more, and you'll see that the first one and the third updated, but this was detached, so this is a normal group and it doesn't affect it. There's also a quicker way to go inside the component definition, and this is selecting any of the instances and clicking on this Edit Master button. So now we are back to the component definition. Okay, so let's create more components, and this is pretty crucial because it really lets you work faster. So let's create one out of this button. Instead of button filter, let's give it a name of just button small. This is more generic, and let's go back. Now let's select this button, let's press Command K, and instead of button book, this will be button outline. And also one more component here for this button, it's button feel, also more generic. And now we have plenty of components, but we've made one mistake. Well, before creating components, we've duplicated the artboards. It means that if we go to the definition of this very button and try to change something, for example, the font color, this will update only in this one instance because those are still folders that we've duplicated before we've created a component. And this is why it's so important to just, think for a second after you create one artboard, what can be a component and what could you use in future so that it will speed up your workflow. Not only that, but also it's nice to think about the responsive design of your app or the web layout. So that is why I've deleted those two artboards, and in the next lesson, I'll show you some responsive options in Studio.